I do have a fear of losing viewers because of success.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years? I'm afraid I'll be dead.
Then do something.
Do I choose health or do I choose money?
Girl, I, as a person, am nowhere near as bad as hater nation. And I say that with my chest, literally with my chest. I did not create this community at all.
It's fat phobia.
As some of you may or may not know, recently after not having any side characters on her channel in quite a while, Amber has decided to feature her mom in her videos. With that has come the internet sleuths who brought up Amber's mom's pretty heinous criminal record. Recently, she scolded reaction channels for talking about her mom's past and monetizing it. But before we begin, let's not forget the time when Destiny spilled all sorts of tea about Amber, and in order to get back at her, Amber wanted to spill some tea about Destiny. Except Amber lied and was super hypocritical in telling this story, knowing full well what her mom has done.
What's one of the worst things Destiny ever did? She had a dog named Cash, who I actually would babysit when he was a puppy. I guess Cash wasn't trained very well. Cash ended up biting like a little girl, and Destiny, this is when Destiny and I were friends, and she was like talking to me about it, and she was like, I'm gonna have someone put down Cash. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I literally have the text messages in this phone. And I was like, no, don't. Like, literally get your dog trained. I don't believe in putting down animals unless, like, they're on their actual deathbed and they're, like, old, like, ancient. Like, animals to me are, like... When Destiny said that she was gonna get Cash put down, in my head... I thought she meant like at a vet. Even then, I don't agree with that shit. But she meant that someone was actually gonna like shoot the dog. That to me was a pivotal moment in our friendship where I was like, Destiny is a piece of shit. And that's even something that like I messaged Destiny actually when she first started this drama between us. I said, are you gonna tell them that your mom beat me up? And are you gonna tell them that you tried to kill your dog? I said that. Yes, I did. Like, everything that you have said about me, you have exposed yourself.
Now it doesn't make it right, but here's what really happened.
It happened on New Year's Day 2020. We had actually spent New Year's with Amberlynn and Becky and Eric and Ricky. Well, Amberlynn and Becky were like, well, it's been a while since we've been, like, towards where we lived. And she was like, well, what if we go to Olive Garden and all this stuff? So we drove. Our roommate starts calling Dana, and she's, like, hysterical, and she says that Cash has just bit her 2-year-old that was also living there. And we try to ask her what happened, like, is the baby okay? Is it like, you know, like what happened? And she did not know. I just knew that with this happening and taking her to the hospital, that animal control and the health department were going to get involved, and 98% sure Cash was going to have to get put down. And it was either us take care of it or someone else. I got a call while I was at work, I think the next day, just asking where the dog was and, you know, like what was being done right then. And I told him, you know, where he was, and I told them that we hadn't done anything to him, that, you know, she's like, okay, well, someone will be out tomorrow to do it. And I said, okay, well, I have to work, but someone will be there. So Dana's dad waited for this guy the next day, and listen, that Cash was also territorial over just, like, male gender. Well, June of 2021, we go to move in with Dana's dad after we come out of the house that we had together. The day that we're moving into the house, I don't know how, but he gets off of his chain, and my niece, who's 6, is swinging on the swing set that's up by the house, and he's just, like, probably like 6 feet away from her, just like at a stance and growling. Dana starts yelling for me, telling me that he's off the chain, and, you know, I try to get to Gracie, between him and Gracie, and so does Dana. Gets him back on the chain, everything's fine. As soon as I turned around from him, I don't know, like, what happened, but he jumped onto me, like, jumped, scratched my back all up, and was just, like, snarling and trying to get my neck from behind. So then we were like going back and forth talking about it. We were like, well, what do we do? Like, if no one can go down there and play with him, no one can go down there and love on him, no one can go down there and just be like, come on, Cash, you're gonna go with us today and run around and take him to PetSmart, whatever. It's just no way for an animal to have to live with no human contact, just food and water when you can get it if you let someone near you to feed you. It was very emotional for me and Dana. We were both very upset, and Dana's dad ended up putting him down for us. Yes, that means that he did it himself. That's all you need to know, really.
So in my newest video, my mom waves at the camera. You see her hand for a second, and then you see her face for a second. And so this reaction channel took it upon themselves to sit there and read every single charge that my mom has or has not, which I'll explain in a second, gotten in her past. It's super tacky and it's all for monetization reasons, and I think it's really pathetic, honestly. Yes, my mom has been to jail. My mom has been to prison. She has been in and out of jail and prison ever since I was just a little girl. Same with my dad. That is what I grew up with. I was in foster care for a reason. These are things that I do not really talk about. There is a rumor going around that my mom went to prison for 5 years for a service animal. I am telling you right now, that never happened. My mom would never hurt an animal, but we want to make it very clear that if you're going to name off my mom's charges for a monetization gain on your behalf, at least get your facts straight.
I won't be showing her criminal record/charges here, but the proof is out there and is public record. Anyways, now that we have a little backstory, let's take a look at Amber using her parents for content and monetary purposes for the past decade.
Hi, I'm Amberlynn Reid. I do YouTube for a living. This is how I pay my bills. This is how I eat, pay electricity. I have a roof over my head, a pillow to lay on at night. I come from a very, very toxic and unhealthy family. When I was 9, I was taken from class by a cop who took me and my brothers to a children's shelter. From then on, I became a ward of the state and I was in foster care until the age of 18. My parents were drug addicts. They neglected me. I lived in a trailer that was falling apart with mold and holes. I saw my dad hit my mom more times than I can even count. I don't cry for views.
Hello everybody, so this is a random video. A while back I had somebody suggest that they wanted me to kind of talk about my foster care experience because, as some of you may know, I was in foster care from the ages of 8 to 18. I wasn't only in foster care, like foster homes, I was also in group homes and children's shelters, so you can ask me about that as well. And you can also ask me about why I was in foster care and what kind of things I went through at home on a daily basis. Please do leave those questions because that'll, help me to make another video regarding it, answering every single question you guys have, because I will answer every single question in a video, I promise. Have you ever felt like you are living in a world with no lights, dark shadows, lying voices, too many people but no choices, thrown here, thrown there, escaping nothing but placed everywhere? Months before, I was living in hell. Meth aroma, hiding tear-streaked pillowcases, and carved depression on a mattress filled with sad faces. Why did my parents never give love once known? I hope you guys enjoyed, and again, please just leave your comments down below because I will answer them for you guys. Please, I really want your questions. I have no issue talking about what I went through or anything to that effect. I learned it at school. No, it was my mom. And then I went to school and I was like, you guys, listen, look how cool. I think I was in like first grade because it was like a year or two before I got taken from my parents. So
this is random, but I wanted to show you guys a picture of my brother. If you guys don't know, I'm actually communicating with my brother. I'm communicating with both of my parents. My dad just got surgery, so I've been checking up on him. So this is my brother, and that's his girlfriend's kid. So I just kind of wanted you guys to see, like, put a image to him. So yeah, that's my brother. I'm hoping one day that me and him could visit each other, and he already said like he wants to be all up in the videos, so I'm like so excited for that. Yay!
So nothing like a little bit of throwback. So I was on Facebook and I saw this photo of me. This is from when I was 11. I was in foster care. I was visiting my parents. This is a little room that we used to be in to visit once a week. So raw. This content is gonna be so raw. This is me spilling tea I've never spilled before. My foster care experience. And honestly, I have tried so hard to like do whole videos dedicated to that. It would take a lifetime. A lot happened during my whole foster care era. To maybe work my way up to talking a little more about it, we'll talk about the first few hours after I was taken from my parents. So I was in elementary school. I was like 8 or 9 years old. I remember getting called into the office. So I get called into the office and there is a police officer there. They also called in my brother. So at the time I had 2 brothers. I had a brother who is a year younger than me. So he was going to the same elementary school as I was. And then I had a baby brother who was about 1 year old, maybe a little younger than that. So me and my brother get put in this cop car. Next I know, we have my little brother. I don't remember how we got him because I know we didn't go by obviously our home, which was a trailer.
rundown, moldy, holy, drug infested, disgusting trailer. Next thing you know, we come to this like huge house. My baby brother's getting taken. I remember a woman with short hair standing at the doorway. Me and my brother were allowed to go and say bye. I was so like confused. And then they end up taking us to the police station, where I just remember sitting there for hours. I think they tried to explain to us what was happening, how they're gonna take us to a children's shelter, how my baby brother was in like this foster home. I guess the children's shelter didn't take babies. And then we get dropped off at this big building. We see like all these random staff and they're like asking us questions. Like there's so many questions and so much paperwork. I'm like, me and my brother are young. I had to get completely naked in the shower. They had to look all over my body. So in my first So Raw video, I'm pretty sure it was my first one, I talked about the first time I was taken from my parents in foster care. And I got some people saying like, what do you mean you were taken from your parents in a cop car? Like, you're such a liar. They don't put kids in cop cars. They did, they do, and they will. I was actually taken from my parents twice. The one time that I told you guys, and then there was another time, it was actually a trial. My parents were able to fake it and say that they were sober, better, improved, they had jobs, etc., etc. So me and my brother got to live with our parents as what they called a trial. That trial was not successful. Things actually got worse and things got bad. So I was actually a teenager, very young teenager when this happened. And then I was actually taken from them again, and the story is so similar. I was at school, I got called into the office, and there was a cop car with a cop, obviously, and I got taken from them. So both times I was taken from them, it was a cop who picked up me and my brother, and we went in a cop car. So yes, that happened both times. Well, how come like there was like a car seat in the cop car? That doesn't make sense. Well, I know for a fact that there was a car seat in the cop car because my brother was in the car seat and it was his car seat. So when the cop picked up my brother from our drug addict parents, they obviously got the car seat as well. I shared a 5-minute clip of me sharing something about my foster care, and it's like people literally had to dissect it so bad that like, no, none of that's true. It's just like, really? So I just wanted to clarify that yes, everything I said was completely true. Like, that is the point of these videos, and the point of my YouTube is I want to be vulnerable and I want to share things with you guys. So not only did we get suspended, we had to go to this like court situation where at the time I was actually living with my parents like for a trial to see if like they were fit to be parents or whatever. They failed. By the way, I was with my parents at the time, so it was me, my dad, he brought his friend. I don't know, they were on like so many drugs. I don't know why he would bring his friend, but okay. My biggest takeaway from the whole thing is that my dad stole a laptop from that building. He did. That's actually a story that I tell my friends all the time, that my dad stole a laptop from a courtroom. Y'all, I was 15 when that happened. No, I was actually 14. Yes, I was 14. I had just turned 14. So you were in foster care, like how did you get so big? Like you didn't have money, like you grew up with poor parents. Like, yeah, it's definitely crazy, because one of the reasons why I was taken from my parents is neglect. That comes with all forms. Like I remember when my mom came to visit me and we talked so much about like the finances when I was like younger, before I was put in foster care, and like I only had one pair of pants. My dad would have rather spent money on getting in whatever form that he wanted than buy his own kids like clothing and stuff. And that also goes with like food and this and that. All the foster homes I was ever in, group homes, like that's not like a money heavy place. Like it's always been very poor, like low income place. And that's how I grew up. That's like based on my experiences. I suffered from several different types of abuse. I just never was physically abused by my parents. You guys have heard this several times. But they were drug addicts. They neglected us. I was put into foster care at a very young age, and I didn't get to leave foster care until I was 18. Every time I share like some things that have happened to me in the past, it's never pity party. It's never, oh, woe is me, feel bad for me. When did you get your nose piercing? What made you get it? I love it. Thank you. I actually got it when I was 12. I was probably 11. No. I probably just turned 12. I want a nose ring. I want it so bad. It was like a thought that just came into my head. I literally couldn't stop thinking it, couldn't stop speaking on it. And during the time I was living with my parents, because I was in foster care, I was living with them for like a trial to see if they were fit parents. My dad surprised me and he took me and he was like, shh, don't tell your mom. And I went and got my nose pierced. And a few of my guy friends actually came with us and it was a fun time. Aaron Carter died, who is a person that I truly liked, because when I was a little girl, when his first single came out, I actually was living with my parents. And you guys know I had a very bad childhood. So I turned to, like, as my parents were in the other room doing, or my dad was seeing my mom or whatever, like, I would turn to certain things. So I kind of wanted to talk about something. My views are getting lower. I used to be money hungry, and I think a big part of it, I didn't have money growing up at all. When I lived with my parents, poor. And when we did have money, they spent it on drugs. And that's just kind of, you know, reality for that. And I never had anything. You know, I had one pair of pants. I had a sweater I wore every day. And then when I was in foster homes, obviously I didn't have anything. Those foster homes weren't my homes. Now that I was finally getting all this money and I was able to do what I wanted with it. So I had all this, you know, money and I was feeding into it and I wanted more and more and more. So I'd find ways to reach an audience that would give me that kind of money. I ate in high school. I found my parents' meth and I took a bite, just a little.
I can say I never did that.
I don't know why. My friend was over and we were just like, oh, let's take a bite of this. Do you think your childhood is why you binge? 100%. Because I started binging very young, 7 years old. I don't want to like get into it, but it was just a really bad childhood. Everyone's circumstances are different, but for me, 100%, I blame my childhood. So these are actually stories my parents have told me, like back when I lived with them. When I was like 6 years old, when we would do Easter egg hunting, when it was Easter, obviously every egg I'd pick up, I'd lick it, expecting it to taste like the color. I was 5, 6, 7. It was actually the night before Thanksgiving. And what my family used to do is my grandma would cook the turkey while we were sleeping. I slept in front of the oven and I said, Dad, I'm gonna guard the big chicken. What were you like as a teen? Long story short, I think that I rebelled because I was going through a lot. I was in foster care again. And so I started smoking weed and I started drinking. I either ditched school or didn't care about school. This is actually how I found out that Santa wasn't real. Again, I was young. I was 8. I was still with my parents at the time, and this was right before I got taken from them. I was 8 years old. Maybe I was 7. I was 8 or 7, just living my best life, sleeping. All of a sudden, I hear this loud noise. And my mom was right next to the Christmas tree and her water had broke. And I heard her say to my dad, I was putting Santa's gifts under the tree and my water broke. That is how I found out there was no longer any Santa. He was no longer, but I also got my baby brother. He was actually put in closed adoption a very long time ago. So I have 3 younger brothers. Tony was born when I was 1.5. Jonathan was born when I was 8. James was born when I was 11. This Amberlynn Reid's brother story doesn't add up, literally. But there's like a picture of my brother. That was when we were 17 and he was 16.
So this was 2008? Because if it was 2007, we were 16 because we didn't turn 17.
No, that's not in 2008. What makes you think that was 2008, honey?
You said 16.
No,
17.
He was 16. I was 17.
So then that would either make...
2008.
Yeah.
It's because now this person's like, you said you were 8 when you held him. He was born when you were 11. This isn't if I said I was 8 when I held him, then that was that was a slip, because my brother Jonathan, oh, you're probably getting confused because I said Jonathan was born when I was 8. Yeah, you're just confused. It's fine. How'd you save the baby from being strangled that was born the age you said you were in foster care? I've made a video about this, but my brother Jonathan, he was in his crib, which was located in the living room next to curtains, and the curtains had really long strings. My parents were, I'm assuming, loaded off of, and they were conked out to the world, yet right next to the crib. I was like, okay, just another night, living, best life. I was in the middle bedroom of the trailer, which was the only thing in between the bedroom
In the living room was a mini kitchen. I was watching Roseanne. My brother started crying, kept crying. Then it was a type of cry that I've never heard before. I went out there. He was purple, like on the verge of death because the curtain strings was wrapped around his neck. I was screaming at my parents, shaking them, and they wouldn't wake up. I had to save my brother's life. He was literally on the verge of death. And if it wasn't for me being there, he would have died. I think in a video, I'm pretty sure I shared how when I was first taken from my parents, I only had 2 brothers at the time. One was a baby. That was Jonathan. And one was my other brother, Tony, which he's a year and a half younger than I am. And the minute we were put into foster care, my baby brother, Jonathan, was automatically placed in a home. My mom then proceeded to get pregnant when I was 10, but she went to jail just to be sober. She like purposely got herself in trouble just to go to jail to be sober so she could give birth to my baby brother, her son, while she was sober. That's a crazy story. You only hear that, you know, in movies, I feel like, and I was in foster care at the time, but I had visitation with my parents. The day after my brother James was born, I was able to hold him. It's just very triggering to have to talk about it, but it's also therapeutic to talk about it. I was in foster care for most of my life. I actually saved my baby brother because my parents were on so many drugs when I was about 9 years old, and my brother was choking really bad. He was in his crib. He was just a baby. Curtain string was around his neck. He was completely purple, couldn't breathe, and I saved his life. So I just want to say, like, this video is kind of hard to film, and I kind of wanted to share it with you guys. When I was a little girl, my parents, they did like every drug imaginable. They would go in the bathroom. That is where they would do their drug of choice, and they'd be in there for hours and hours and hours a day. When they would leave that bathroom, I don't know if they were gonna be like super hyper, I want to clean everything, oh my god I talk so fast, I'm gonna be up for like 3 days. I didn't know if they were gonna be out screaming at me for every little thing ever, slamming things, throwing things, breaking each other's bones. I didn't know if they were gonna come out unable to even speak, loaded out of their brains. They wouldn't be able to like do anything without. As a little girl, I loved Nick at Night. We lived in a trailer. In the middle room was the only room that had a TV besides a living room, but that's where my parents were. Completely passed out. I could literally bang pots and pans and they wouldn't hear me. So I was in the middle room. It was like my safe place. And all of a sudden my baby brother was literally just crying his eyes out, and he was barely even 1, or he might have been 1, a little over 1, but it was like around that age. So I kind of just let my baby brother cry. I was expecting like my mom and dad to like wake up. I think I was about 8 years old at this moment. He just kept on crying and I was getting annoyed. I started turning Roseanne up. I turned up Roseanne for as loud as it could go. It was an old TV. Like, we're like literally trailer park trash. There are a lot of people who live in trailers who are not trailer park trash, like, but I can admit for myself that's what we were. That's what everyone saw us as. I started hearing like a cry that I wasn't used to. It started to become the sound of like it wanted to come out but it like couldn't. My brother's crib was in the living room and it was next to these windows with these really big like curtains, and they had long strings on the curtains. It was a small trailer, disgusting trailer, might I add. I went out there to scream at them. But I look over at the crib and my brother is literally purple. And I saw the strings from the curtains were wrapped around his neck. Like hardcore, just like wrapped. I don't know how it happened. Obviously he did it, like, but I don't know how he did it. As gently, but as fastly as I could, I got the cords from around his neck and he started breathing again. It took like a minute. It disgusts me as a 25-year-old girl to think that people will do so many drugs that they can't even take care of their own children. One of the moments that like made me realize like, holy shit, my parents are psycho, like a couple months later after that moment, that is when I was put into foster care. And my whole foster care experience is a whole other like video. Like, I have been requested to do that video so many times and I just can't. I will, and now he is put into a closed adoption and I haven't seen him in, I want to say like 13 years. After the situation where he started breathing better and he wasn't as purple and stuff, like, I held on to him for dear life.
and my parents still didn't wake up. They didn't wake up, I want to say, for like a day and a half, and I had to do everything for my little brother. I had 2 little brothers at the time. My other brother was just like a year younger than I, so he was like 7. But these are some lighthearted questions, so if you want to get to know the childhood Amberlynn Reid a little bit more, let's get into this. What was your favorite vacation you went on as a child? My parents did drugs. I was in foster care. You know, I did live with my parents until I was 8, 9. But while living with my parents, we would go camping, and we would go every summer for my brother's birthday. My dad, he would go fishing, and he knew how to like gut a fish. We would catch crawdads together. You know, me and my brother would bring bikes, and we would ride our bikes around. It was a big, popular camp place. So I think it was the last Christmas I actually had with my family before I got put into foster care. My mom was actually pregnant with my brother Jonathan, who is now in closed adoption. I remember every single Christmas I would sleep on the couch because I wanted to meet Santa. So I'm just sleeping on the couch, you know, living my best life. And all of a sudden I hear this loud noise from my mom, and she was standing there, and I don't think she knew I was awake. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, my water broke while I was putting out the kids' Santa gifts." So that's how I found out my mom had Jonathan that Christmas. I just wonder how he's doing, where he's at, who he is as a person. And same with my brother James, because they were both put into closed adoption. I feel like I had quite a few best friends in my younger years, childhood. Then I got taken from my parents, and I remember getting a call when I was at the children's shelter. My grandma called, and she said that Kay had moved away to Tennessee. I think that was the first time I've ever been like brokenhearted over a person, besides like the, you know, my family issues and stuff and the things I went through regarding that. Fast forward, when I was 16, I think I was 15. Yeah, I was 15, and I got to do like this trial thing, live with my parents to see if they were suitable to be parents, to see if, you know, I could get out of foster care, blah, blah, blah. So during that time, I actually went to the fair in my hometown. Yeah, I was going through a lot when I was 15. That's actually the year that I went to a mental hospital. Whole other subject. As a child, I was on a soccer team. I was on a softball team. I was in a dance group. I would rollerblade, roller skate, swim. I don't want to say athletic, but I kind of was. That was actually a fun childhood tag. I'm surprised that I don't have diabetes because it runs in the family. I don't think I have ever seen someone have such bad diabetes than my dad. Growing up, he was in a diabetic coma. I saw at a young age, he has this really bad ulcer on the bottom of his foot, and he still has it. They want to amputate his foot, and they've wanted to amputate his foot for over a decade. And not only does my dad have it, but both of my grandmas. Here's a little factoid. Story time. The closest person I have ever had in my family is my grandma Judy. She passed away. Was like my mom when my mom couldn't be my mom, or didn't want to be my mom, or wasn't my mom. And this was during the time when this was during a trial with my parents to see if they were fit to be parents again, because I was in foster care. This whole aspect was happening during that trial. This reminds me of when I lived with my parents. Like, they did drugs, so they didn't think clearly. They were obsessed with scratchers. My dad had his own lawnmower shop, and in the back there was like this room where they would do the drugs at. On the wall, literally, they made it to where they, like, you couldn't see the walls. It was just nothing but scratch offs.